This is a crochet tutorial for the Rainbow Star Baby Blanket. The link to the free pattern is in the description of this video. This is by far my 6-year-old daughter's favorite blanket that I've made. You can also make a smaller or larger version of this. I used double knit wool from West Yorkshire Spinners ColourLab, which is 100% natural wool, locally reared, sheared and spun here in the UK. It comes in 18 beautiful solid shades. Of course, you can use any yarn you like. The materials you need include a pair of scissors, a crochet hook, and some yarn. I use a 4mm crochet hook, also known as size G. You start off with a magic circle. Loop the yarn twice around your pointer finger. Insert your hook through both strands. Pull through. Insert your hook again. And pull through for a second time to finish the magic circle. For an in-depth look on how to make any of the crochet stitches, I've included a video link in the description. We chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. This counts as a double crochet stitch. And then we work a double crochet stitch. Yarn over, insert the hook in the magic circle, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We work a total of 11 double crochet into the magic circle, and then we count the chain 3 as an additional double crochet stitch. So all in all, we should have 12 double crochet stitches. Close the gap in the magic circle by pulling the loose end. Make sure that it's tight enough. Let's check if you have enough stitches. Of course, we count the chain 3 as one of our stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Insert your hook into the top of the chain 3. And then we slip stitch to complete row 1. Chain 3 again. Double crochet stitch in the same stitch as the chain 3. Yarn over, insert your hook. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then we work 2 double crochet into each of the rest of the stitches. So in row 1 we have 12 double crochet. In row 2, since we double that, we should have 24 double crochet. So here we have our first double crochet for this stitch, and then our second double crochet for that stitch. So we repeat this pattern all the way to the end to complete row 2. So here's our last 2 double crochet stitches. We join with a slip stitch at the top of the chain 3 start of this row to close row 2. So here's our chain 3, slip stitch into that. I prefer changing colors every 2 rows. So we chain 1 before cutting the yarn to secure the yarn. And then we join the new yarn by slip stitching through any double crochet stitch in row 2. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We skip 1 stitch and we work a double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, 1, 2, work another double crochet stitch in the same stitch. We skip 1 stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, double crochet again in the same stitch. As you can see, we have a repeating V pattern. 2 double crochet with a chain 2 in the middle, and we skip 1 stitch between the V's. So skip 1 stitch, work a V stitch with a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet again in the same stitch. We keep doing this until the end of row 3. We need to complete the V for the chain 3 start of this row. Double crochet in the same stitch as the chain 3, chain 2, then slip stitch at the top of chain 3. We should have 12 V stitches. We continue with the same color. We slip stitch into the chain 2 space. In this chain 2 space, we're going to make a V stitch. So we do a chain 3, work a double crochet stitch in the same chain space, chain 2, work a double crochet again in the same chain space, and yet another double crochet in the same chain space. Double crochet in the next chain space, double crochet in the same space, chain 2, double crochet in the same chain space, and double crochet in the same chain space. So 1, 2, chain 2, 3, and 4. You can see that we are working 2 pairs of double crochet with a chain space for each chain 2 space from the previous row. This is another kind of V stitch, only it's a larger V stitch. We repeat this large V stitch pattern until the end of row 4. So it is essentially 2 pairs of double crochet, and in the middle of each V-stitch we have a chain 2. In the end, we should have 12 large V-stitches for this row. To close this row, we slip stitch with the top of the chain 3 start. Since this is the second row using this color, we need to chain 1 before we cut the yarn to secure it. So a little bit of housekeeping. I prefer to do my weaving in of loose ends as I work. One way of doing this is by using a hook to weave these loose strands through legs of yarn. We join a new color yarn through one of the chain 2 spaces. So since we're working in a chain 2 space, we need to work a V-stitch. So we start off with a chain 3. A double crochet in the same chain space. Chain 2. And 2 more double crochet in the same chain space. So here we have 1 large V-stitch. Then we're going to work a double crochet in the next stitch. So here's our next stitch. And then we skip 2 stitches and then work a double crochet in the next stitch. And then we work a large V-stitch in the next chain 2 space. So 2 double crochet followed by a chain 2, then another 2 double crochet in the same chain space. And then we work double crochet stitches in the next stitches, remembering to skip the central 2 stitches between our V stitches. So here we have 2 skipped stitches, and before that we have our large V-stitch, and then we continue with this pattern. Large V-stitch, and then we work double crochet stitch, skipping 2 central stitches. Here's a tip. Whenever I encounter a loose yarn, I usually hide this by positioning it at the top of the previous row and working my stitches around them. This is my preferred way to weave in any loose ends without actually weaving in anything. So like this, I have this blue loose yarn and I'm working all my double crochet around it. So now I'm going to work my large V-stitch in this chain 2 space, positioning that loose yarn at the top of the previous row. Working my double crochet stitches around that loose yarn. And you can see that this method, you can easily hide your loose yarn from the front and the back of the work. To close row 5, we slip stitch at the top of the chain 3 start. So here's our chain 3. We should have 12 large V-stitches plus 24 double crochet between those V-stitches. We slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Work a large V-stitch in the chain 2 space. So 2 double crochet, and then chain 2, and then 2 double crochet again in the same chain space. Let's take a look at the number of stitches between the V-stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 stitches. Remember, we need to locate the central 2 stitches since we're going to skip these ones. This is what makes the dip in the star pattern. So we double crochet in the first 2 stitches, followed by skipping the next 2 stitches, and then we make 2 double crochet stitches, and then we work a large V-stitch in the chain 2 space, and we repeat this pattern until we complete row 6. So we work 1 last double crochet in the last stitch, then slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 start of this row. Then we chain 1 more to secure before we cut this color, since this is the second row using this color. So generally speaking, our pattern for the star blanket is made up of large V-stitches followed by double crochet. But we need to remember to skip the central 2 stitches between these V-stitches. So we join a new color yarn through one of the double crochet right before a V-stitch of the previous row. And then we chain 3. And then we double crochet in the next 2 stitches. The next 2 stitches are actually part of the V-stitch of the previous row. So as you can see, we've kept to the rules of skipping the central 2 stitches between the V-stitches, and we're about to work another V-stitch in the chain 2 space. For this row though, we're going to work a smaller V-stitch. So 1 double crochet followed by chain 2 and 1 more double crochet in the same chain space. This is a small V-stitch which is actually the same as the one in row 3. Now we're going to check with the 2 stitches we're going to skip as we work double crochet stitches along the rest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means we work 3 double crochet, we skip 2 stitches, and then we work 3 more double crochet. We continue with this pattern until we complete row 7. So V-stitch followed by 3, skip 2, followed by 3. We close this row by slip stitching at the top of the chain 3 start. If we check the alignment between rows, we can see that the V stitches align with one another, regardless if they're small or large V stitches. We can also check and see that the skips or dips align between rows. So this is a good tip to remember when locating the 2 stitches we need to skip. They will always align with the skip or dip in the previous row. Here's the star blanket I'm currently working on for my daughter. After row 7, we use large V stitches for the next 2 rows. Then we use small V stitches for the following 2 rows. Then we keep alternating every 2 rows. Large V stitches, small V stitches, and so on and so forth. So here, let's take a look. We start off with a small V stitch followed by a large V stitch. The next one should be a large V stitch, which it is. The next is a small V stitch that should be followed by a small V stitch, and so on and so forth. So every 2 rows we alternate between small and large V stitches. This is where I continue my daughter's star blanket. The previous row has small V stitches, and the one before that has large V stitches. So large V stitch, small V stitch. That means for the current row, I should use small V stitches. We can join our yarn anywhere. We just have to remember to skip the central 2 stitches that make up the dip in the star blanket. So I will join my new yarn here, and then I'm going to chain 3. Then double crochet for every stitch around, except I need to skip the central 2 stitches or work on a V stitch for every chain 2 space. So I've hit the chain 2 space, so I will work a small V stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet in the same chain 2 space. And then more double crochet stitches until I hit a dip, meaning I have to skip the central 2 stitches for the previous row. So I skip these two, continue on with my double crochet. Enjoy making your star blanket. Thanks for watching and see you next time.